Hello, and welcome again for another lesson about quadratic functions. In this lesson, we will be focusing about graphing them. So for our first one, we will be graphing the quadratic function f of x is equal to ax squared and f of x is equal to negative ax squared. So ano nga bang pinagkaiba ng itsura ng graph nila? So here it is. One graph is opening upward and the other graph is opening downward. So for our first one is our positive, or the f of x is equal to ax squared. So we just gave a value to it, which is f of x is equal to 3x squared. So ito, table of values lang siya. So it's up to you what numbers you would like to substitute to x to get the values of f of x. After that, find the values of h and k. So h and k. So for h, we have negative b over 2a, which will give us 0. And then for k, we have 4ac minus b squared all over 4a, which would also give us 0. Therefore, our vertex is 0, 0. Ayan siya. And since a is positive, our graph would be opening upwards. So always remember, when a is positive, the parabola is facing upward, pataas. So as you can see here, it's the same thing, but then pababa yung graph natin. This is because when the value of a is negative, the parabola is facing downward. So that is the logic of our f of x is equal to ax squared and f of x is equal to negative ax squared. Now, for the graph of our f of x, ax squared plus minus k, and f of x is equal to negative ax squared plus minus k. So, nagdagdag na tayo ng k. So, this is what it looks like. So, our original graph is the middle one. And the positive, negative k, ito yung isa sa taas at isa sa baba. Let's see in our example. So, for our table of values, we have this. So, here, our a is positive. So, when a is positive, the parabola is facing upward, and adding k will move the graph upwards, and subtracting k will move the graph downwards. So, si 3x squared plus 2 is yung ating pink line, and si f of x, 3x squared minus 2 is our blue line. So, ang k positive ay nagpataas ng graph at ang k na negative ay nagpababa ng graph. For the negative, it would still be the same logic. Adding k will move the graph upwards and subtracting k will move the graph downwards. For the next one, we have f of x is equal to x minus h squared and f of x equal to negative a x minus h squared. So, meron na tayong h. So, ayan na po yung graph nila. So, nadagdagan ng pakanan at ng pakaliwa. So for the table of values, we have this. So if A is positive, paulit-ulit lang po tayo, parabola is facing up. Adding h will move the graph to the left and subtracting h will move the graph to the right. So kapag po nag-add ng h, pakaliwa tayo. So this is the blue line. At kapag nag-subtract tayo ng h, pakanan po tayo. Same logic with the negative. Adding h will move the graph to the left and subtracting h will move the graph to the right. For this one, we have f of x is equal to a x minus h squared plus minus k, and f of x is equal to negative a x minus h squared plus minus k. So ito, pinagsama-sama na natin lahat. And as you can see, this is the vertex form of the quadratic function. So, same logic pa din, adding h will move the graph to the left and subtracting h will move the graph to the right. Adding k will move the graph upwards. And for this one, we have adding h will move the graph to the left, subtracting h will move the graph to the right. Subtracting k will move the graph downwards. So that would be all for graphing. So now, these are the things that you need to remember. The concavity or the opening of the graph, the axis of symmetry or line of symmetry, vertex, maximum or minimum value, domain, range, x-intercept, and the y-intercept. So ang concavity, ito po yung bukas ng parabola. So if it is opening upward or opening downward. Axis of symmetry, ito po yung naghahati ng graph sa gitna. Kaya siya tinawag na axis of symmetry is magkamuka yung nasa left at yung nasa right side. Vertex, ito po yung nandito. Maximum or minimum value is the same as the vertex. Domain, range, x-intercept, and y-intercept would depend on the given equation. So here is a visual representation of the things that we need to remember. So now let's try some examples. We have y is equal to 2x squared plus 3. So concavity, how do we find the concavity? When A is positive, it is opening upward. Positive. And when A is negative, it is opening downward. So dito po sa example natin, positive po si A. Kaya the concavity is upward. Vertex. So for the vertex, you can use the h or k to find the value of h and k. So for the formula, marirecall niyo po yan sa previous lessons natin. So we have 0, 3. Axis of symmetry is when x is equal to 0. So saan ang galing si x is equal to 0? Dito po yan. Sa vertex. 2 points other than the vertex, so kayo na po ang bahala dito. This would be found in the table of values, which was also seen a while ago. So maglalagay lang po kayo ng numbers sa x para po makuha nyo ang y. Dito po ang ginamit ko is 1 and negative 1. Next example, we have y is equal to 2x plus 1 squared minus 2. So same thing, positive pa rin po si A. So upward, vertex po niya is si H at si K. So H at K. So since positive si 1 dito, dapat negative ang magiging sagot. So we have negative 1 and negative 2. Axis of symmetry when x is equal to negative 1. 2 points other than the vertex, so I chose 0, 0, and 1, 6. So that would be all for the first part of our lesson for today, and I hope that you learned something new. See you soon again. Salamat po!